Check it out, check it, check it out, check it, check it, check it out, check it.
Hey, Greg and the CE call me hip hop junkie. Straight to your dome piece like Brass Monkey. All I wanna know, do you wanna get funky? CNC beats be kick.
So my name is Radhika Devarkonda. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm very excited to be here today. And I specialize in wealth building and offering wealth building and tax advantage strategies to people. And I'm a licensed financial consultant. So I have a business. I'm a business owner in financial industry. I have an IT background as a product owner and business analyst. So I've always been passionate about, finance and how to be empowered financially. That's something that I really care about, and that is the mission I'm on, where I want to help fellow women, men and women, right? But especially women, I want to empower them so that they can make informed financial decisions and they can have a wonderful future. So that's what I believe in.
I love that. I love that. So with that being said, I want to allow everyone to, just come in and have a great general conversation with us today. Please, add in the comments what you think about this episode. Me and this wonderful woman right here are going to bring you guys some insights today, right? We're going to show you guys some how-tos, and what we're going to be talking about today is diversifying your portfolio, right? This is the Wealthy and Healthy Podcast with your coach, the one and only Coach K Capri. So today, what we're going to talk about, you guys, is diversifying your portfolio. I wanted to do something different with the podcast. So we are starting some rebranding, and every single Wednesday we are going to be dropping Wealth Wednesday. So today we're talking about portfolios, right? We're talking about wealth. We're talking about legacy, right? So we're going to chop it up today like we always do. And I have a special guest. Like she told you guys, she has, taxes. She does taxes. She helps people, figure out how to, find the right life insurance policy. And we're going to dive into that here in a little bit. But we are going to give you guys some real game today. Like, we're really going to talk about, structure. How do you structure a portfolio? How do you create a legacy, right? How do you build off of your credit, and how do you use that as a consumer and create something that is going to last? Your kids is going to outlive you, right?
You can call me Rad. You can call me Rad.
Okay. Ms. Rad is going to, we're going to break some things down today, but the first thing that I want to talk about, right, is what do you see in this new, please tell us where you're from and where you're originally from, and, everything about, your current stage in entrepreneurship. What are you seeing in entrepreneurship? What are you seeing that you want to change? And what is your biggest goals right now, as far as, like you said, empowering women? How do you plan on doing that? What is your biggest goals?
That's a great question. Thank you. And this is something that I would love to share with people, why I'm in this business and why I love it the most. Everyone needs to have a job. That's a primary occupation that people get started with. But in the long run, people need to be independent. They need to make their own money. They can't be working forever and be in the rat race forever, right? So the thing is to be empowered, and nobody is going to empower us except ourselves. So we got to be proactive. So I with the same thought, I came out and I have started this business. And one of the main things that I wanted was, my immediate goal was to learn more about what are finances, like how can I learn about these personal finance things, because I did not know ABCs of this, and I wanted to know so that first I can make informed decisions for my portfolio. And generally, I wasn't, doing any financial planning for my future. I don't have many asset vehicles. I just have a 401k that I have. And I just thought that, how should I plan from now? Because I believe that if you start now, at least you will be better in your retirement. You can have a secure retirement. And with
Right.
that goal, I learned a lot of things. And I have been, as part of this business, I have gotten a lot of financial education, and I have proactively looked up a lot of resources. I followed some good financial gurus, and I've been learning a lot. And again, I believe it's a continuous process. And
Right.
I feel so happy and satisfied that not only am I able to get started with the financial planning for myself, I'm also being able to help other people also. I have been helping individuals and families to kind of look at their different asset vehicles and asset instruments and how can they plan. So this is what I'm currently doing, and this is pure joy. I would say that.
Yeah. I think it is joy. Like for me as a financial advisor, I think I do like it's not fun necessarily, but I think it really brings me joy as far as like educating and showing people things that they wouldn't know, as far as like credit and as far as like just budgeting in general, right? As an entrepreneur, you got to know how to make your money work for you, right? So you don't just want to have your money going down an endless hole of, debt and bills. So, when it comes to diversifying your portfolio, I just want everyone to understand how important it is when it comes to when we talk about building wealth, right? When we talk about building legacy, when we talk about, building something that has foundation that can stand on its own 2 feet, right? When you start a business, right, you want to be able to take a step back as an entrepreneur, right? When we start a business, we're most likely, as the business owner and the one who founded and started the business, we're most likely the visionaries, right? So when we think of ourselves as the visionaries, we want to take a step back and we want to let our brain work versus, making our legs work and our hands work for us. So that's why we're talking about diversifying a portfolio. And then another thing about a portfolio that also helps you is, when we talk about acquiring assets, right? Is just bringing in money. Everybody likes money, right? And you talked about this briefly, Rad, is when we talk about, you have to have a job, right? You have to have some type of occupation because nobody can live for free, right? So even people who, are homeless, right? They still have to eat, right? And you can't get that stuff for free. So everyone has to have some type of occupation. So when we talk about diversifying your portfolio, I would want to tell people, right, when we talk about a portfolio, when we talk about how to start, right, it all starts with your job, right? It starts with where are you working, right? How much money are you able to really invest, right? And do you know where to put your money, right? Do you know how to make your money work for you? So let me ask you this, right? How can regular people, and like specifically, how can moms or women entrepreneurs, as the women of their house and the one who most likely is the one who's handling the money, how do you think they can start doing, like, give us a few things that they can start doing every single day that can help them start diversifying that portfolio? Like you said, when you first started, you had a 401k and you just wanted to figure out where you went, and you found gurus, you found a lot of people, and you kind of already gave us a few great pointers, but gives us some things that women can do every single day, especially if they got kids, all that type of stuff, right? Give us some things that they can do every single day that's going to help them and push them forward to actually starting and creating that portfolio.
That's a very interesting question, because how can we, because for even a 1,000-mile journey, it all starts with a single step. So
Right.
what can a regular person, whether it's a mom taking care of kids, how can they get started? First thing is, whatever money they have at their disposal, right? The money that has been allocated for the household, how well are we spending that, right? Like how is are we overspending? Right, like we need to budget things so that we do not overspend, and we can make wise choices there. It's always, regardless of how much money we have, it's always good to be frugal, because being frugal means it's a sign of a good financial discipline. So always watch your budget. Do not overspend what you cannot afford, because it's always fun to just buy a very expensive handbag when it actually doesn't do anything for you. It could be just a one-time thing. So just be mindful about expenses. It's not that you cannot afford those things, luxurious things. You will, with financial
Right.
discipline and how you can just use your existing money, save up something, right? And have a budget, and everything should be in control, right? That is something that you can control right away. And when it comes to the future planning, right, like how to get started. So basically, when people want to have a secure life in future, they think that they have to invest money right away. Whatever, let's say they have some surplus amount, they just get into investing, and they do not have the proper knowledge to do the right investments, and they end up losing that money, which can
Right.
be, it will literally break our bones. So never do that. So how do we take care of our financial houses? There is a order that we do. First, we need to protect our money. Protection comes is the foundation. And then debt elimination. And again, in terms of debt, not every debt is a bad debt, right? Like we would have a mortgage, but that's not a bad debt. But how to repay it in a way that we are not overpaying the mortgage. So having that structure and thought process will help us go a long way. And then after handling the debt situation, what is the next thing is emergency fund. So every family, every person should have at least 3 to 6 months of their expenses, like saving, so that just in case they lose a job or something happens, they still have a emergency fund that they can dip into versus just, selling off something. So emergency fund is the third uh, item that they have to take care in their financial house. And the topmost one, the final one, is the investment. When they have, when they are good at all these different levels, that's when they should invest their money, because they have taken care of the remaining items on the checklist. So this is how they should go about. And again, it's a game of patience. Always in when we want money to work for us, we got to be really patient. We got to know our stuff. And with that, definitely, you will be a lot more secure, with your finances. That's what I would recommend.
Right. I love that because a lot of the stuff that you say is the stuff that a lot of financial advisors teach. So like I want to break that down a little bit too. Like when you talked about making your money work for you, right? When we talk about investment funds, guys, you have to understand that investing is the end goal, right? Investing is the end goal. That's where we want to get to. But everything, like you can't get to the top step by skipping all the other steps going up a stairwell, right? So you have to
Yes.
understand every single step is going to be able to help you invest, right? And another thing is that stuff takes time, right? 3 to 6 months expenses is a lot of money. So if you have like $5,000 a month in expenses, you want to have at least 15,000 put away. But
Yeah.
how do you get that 15,000, right? So that's a big question that a lot of entrepreneurs have. And I think in today's age when everybody's living off of credit, right, it's not how it used to be, right? We can't just, go to the bank and say, I want money and not have a good credit score. Everything is based off a credit score. Back in the day, you could just bring your bank statements, or you could bring, just tell them like, hey, I got the money, right?
Mhm.
And I got the cash, and you can get a mortgage or you can get a car loan. Now everything is based off of your personal credit report. And that's kind of where I want to switch gears. But before we switch gears, right, I want everybody to understand what we're going to be talking about today is based on structure. Like Rad was saying, everything has to do with your financial house. And like I kind of mentioned, you want to have a foundation, right? So how do you create that foundation? How do you have income coming in, right? How do you pay for all this stuff? Then you want to build up, and then you say, okay, I got into this debt because I needed a car to go make money. I needed a house to live in. I needed to have clothes and stuff. So then you start to say, okay, now I'm in debt. Maybe I'm in good debt. Maybe I'm in bad debt, right? And I always like from the words from the mouth of the great Robert Kiyosaki, good debt is going to be assets. Liabilities are going to be bad debt. So assets bring in things that are bringing money in or that are helping you bring money in, and liabilities are things that are taking money out, right? So when we understand that aspect of a financial house, we can start talking about structure, and that's what we're going to start talking about. Like this is legacy planning conversation, right? We're not talking about 3 to 6 months down the road. We're talking about 30, 40 plus years, right? And something that you said in one of our very first conversations, Rad, was something that really hit me still, and I think about it a lot when I think about legacy planning, is that we will outlive our savings, right?
Yeah.
So we will outlive our savings. So I wanted to shift gears and say, how do we start creating that financial house? How do we start building that? And one thing that we can start doing is we can start leveraging our credit. Okay. Every person who builds wealth has to have credit assets, right? You have to acquire things with credit. And I say that to say because, when we talk about credit repair, right? Everybody knows I do credit repair, but the credit repair is a little thing, right? How do we rebuild our credit? We start to go get assets. So for example, if I want to start building with my credit and I know that 3 to 6 months of expenses is going to be about 15, 20K, guess what? Why don't I just go get a 20K credit card? Right, and I start to leverage things to where I can make sure that I'm putting that money away, right? So I think that's a huge thing when we talk about how do you start building that financial house, right? And and another thing about it is when we get to that stage where we're like, okay, I'm ready to invest, credit is going to be a huge part of that, right? Nobody can say, hey, I want to go buy an apartment building, I got 50,000 in cash. Nobody's going to do that. Even if you did have 50,000 in cash, you're probably not going to do that. You're going to go to the bank and say, hey, if you know how to play the game, right? You're going to go to the bank and say, hey, I got the down payment, right? And the beautiful thing, and we're going to break this down here in a minute, guys. But when we talk about real estate, right? The beautiful thing about portfolios is real estate is one of the only industries where you can get 90% of the funding up front, right? So when we talk about real estate, and it's also one of the biggest ways where you can start building, like we talk about starting your portfolio. Every American, every person in general can invest in some type of real estate. I don't care if you make $20 an hour versus you making $10 an hour, right? You still can invest in some type of real estate. But I want to rewind a little bit, because when we talk about legacy building, right, and we talk about how credit is a big part of when you want to start investing, we have to understand that our credit can be leveraged, right? So when we leverage credit, say I want to go put that down payment on a house, right, or say I want to go get that property and it's 10K to start. A little 10K credit card from Chase could put you in position, right? Versus you saving up $10,000 cash, that's going to put you in, that may take forever for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
I know 5 years ago, I wouldn't think about saving up 10K, right? That was like so far from my mind.
But I can't agree more on that with you, Athena. Why? Because we can never undermine having about the credit score, right? It's like we don't have any backbone without having a good credit score. Because when
Right.
I was new to States, where did I get started? First of all, I had to build my credit to get to that credit score. So it's very important. It doesn't matter even if you have 50K in your bank account or whatever that is. And if you don't have the credit score, good credit score, reasonably good, right? Then you're not even in the game. Because if we have to win a game, especially the money game, we need to know the rules of this game very well. So the
Right.
better we learn, the sooner that we learn, the better it would be for us. So I can't agree more with you on this with you, Athena. So you made an excellent point.
Yes, that and here's the thing, like when you like you said, when you have to build your credit score up, it all comes back down to protecting the back, right? That's what we're
Mhm.
talking about today, protecting your wealth. That's the very first thing you spoke on when it comes to that financial health, or that financial house and your financial health, right? Period. So let me ask you this, right? When it comes to building and protecting that financial house and building that wealth, right?
Mhm.
What do you think, like when it comes to taxes, right? What do you think entrepreneurs, like everyday entrepreneurs, should do when it comes to taxes, not just when it comes to tax time, right?
Mhm.
Throughout the year. What
Yes.
can they do to protect that bag? What can they do to protect that wealth?
Absolutely. And this is a great question, and it's very, very important for everyone to pay attention to. Because when we get started as business owners, because when I got started into business, I'm thinking, we have to think like a business owner. What will happen? We need to make sure that we are doing a profitable business, right? And when it comes to wealth building and legacy planning, how can we make sure that, we stay in profits and how to save that money. And at this point, I want to introduce something called there are three different tax buckets. One is the most common thing which everyone knows and is the taxable bucket, where all the money that people earn and spend everything that goes into the taxable bucket. And for all that income that we are getting, we are paying the IRS every year before April 15, all these taxes because it's a taxable income and whatever tax bracket we are in. And the second bucket is a tax deferred bucket where the stocks or 401ks, real estate, all these are in the tax deferred brackets because 401ks, you are contributing money into it. And when you want to withdraw that money in retirement, you would have to pay taxes. So you're not paying taxes now, you're just deferring those taxes to a later date in future
Oh,
in
okay.
retirement.
Right.
Right? That's tax deferred. And most of the instruments are in this tax deferred bracket. But there is a third bucket, which most people do not know, is called the tax advantaged or the tax free bucket. And people are even, they don't even believe that there is such a bucket. That, heck, indeed, can we really have a tax free retirement? Is that even possible? But
Hmm.
yes, it is very much possible. And this is how the wealthy people from 1980, since 1980, they have been building their wealth, they have been protecting their wealth, and passing it on to their next generation. So there are different strategies which I personally, offer to people, educate the people on how to use these strategies, wealth building strategies, and make sure that all the money, it is better to pay taxes early on than pay taxes in retirement because the taxes are inevitably going to rise.
Right.
There is no going backwards. And people should not, and the proof is that if anyone understands math, they will know that the taxes are only going to rise but not decrease. So it
Right.
is that makes it very important and mandatory to make sure that some of the money you diversify your money and put it into the tax advantaged bucket as well from now onwards, so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is all about diversifying your portfolio and all the goals that you specifically have, whether it's legacy planning or whether it's your retirement planning, or if you have any intermittent needs in the next 5 to 10 years, or whatever need be, you would still have money, tax-free money to use at times of need. So that's how legacy planning is done. And I believe that business owners should really plan this out, because if they are not, if they are failing to plan, then they are actually planning to fail.
Right.
And knowing about these strategies is the first thing. And then eventually they will, and any person that I help personally, I cater solution that is relevant to their needs, that suits their needs, and suitability, affordability, and desirability. So based on these three factors, I kind of design solutions for them, and it will help them in the long run. So that's about financial planning for business owners and wealth building and legacy planning.
Right. And let me ask you one more question about when it comes to uh, taxes, right? When you talked about that tax advantages bucket, right, or the
Mhm.
tax-free bucket, if you will, where do we put that money? Like, if because I know a lot of people talk about building wealth, or you can protect your wealth through a life insurance policy, which I want to talk about here in a minute. But I also want to know, like, how do we protect this money? Do we put it in the bank? Do we put it in a savings account? Is it an IUL? What type of, like, where do we go to protect that money if we're trying to get that tax-free thing? Because I've heard you can do it through assets. I've heard you can do
Mhm.
it through life insurance. So what do you recommend, or
Absolutely.
what have you
Yes.
seen?
Yes, that's the question. That's the meat of the whole conversation. That there is something called, because earlier life insurance is a very underrated concept. People think that life insurance, it's a asset vehicle, but people do not see like an asset vehicle. They just think that we got to buy some life insurance just in case we die and something happens to us. Our family will get the proceeds from the life insurance. We could claim that. But life insurance, that was the old definition, which is called the term life insurance. But there is a newer type of insurance, and it's been here for many years. It's just that people don't are not fully aware of it yet. It's called the permanent insurance. That means when you buy a life insurance policy, you are basically planning for your entire life. And in case of anything unfortunate happens, you will be definitely covered from day one, which is the obvious thing of a life insurance. But this instrument or this vehicle can also be used to build wealth and have a tax-free growth, because that is what it's a legitimate tool to build wealth. And you may ask why the government allows us to use a life insurance policy to build wealth. Why? Because it's being proactive. If the consumers are proactive and they are thinking about their retirement, because they don't want to outlive their money, they just want to be secure and safe, and they don't want to depend on the government. So the government provides, through this policy, right, this permanent insurance, it allows people to use that policy not only to take care of their overall life for themselves and their family, but also use this as a taxed advantage bucket. That's why the government allows this. And it's not an investment vehicle. It's basically a contract. It's a life insurance contract that kind of serves multi-purpose. Not only helps you protect your life, but it also protects wealth and builds your
Yeah.
wealth over a period of time and helps you achieve your retirement goals without and again, there is always limitations, right? Like, what are the things that we should not do and the
Right.
things that we should do, so that we are not abusing this particular asset vehicle. So that is
That's
how it works at the high level. But it's one of the satisfying things that I do as part of my business, where I personally help the clients to actually, review their current financial situation. And based on the gap identified, I would recommend solution to them, and I design them and structure them in certain way so that they are, their financial planning is solid and is in place for a secure retirement.
right. I like that. I like that aspect of it, right? And we talked about this before. I got into the life insurance space, right? I was going to get licensed as a in insurance, like in life insurance, and then I transferred into security just because it kind of aligns more with my brand and my business, right? So being able to offer people securities and being able to tell them where they should invest, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But when it comes to life insurance and when it comes to insurance, period, right? I do know a few things about how this works, right? So I definitely love the aspect of you talking about wealth building in that
Mhm.
in that sentence, right? When
Yeah.
you are talking about insurance, in it, whether it's health insurance, whether it's car insurance, you have to have some type of cushion, guys. Like you have to have some type of, way to protect yourself, right? But like we don't have money insurance. If you drop a $20 bill and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
If you lose your credit card or if you lose something that has money on it, it's gone. So how do you protect your money? And there's so many different things that, you can do to actually like put layers on that protection. But life insurance or insurance in general is the biggest way to put money into that and actually build that, like Rad was saying. Another thing that an aspect we could talk about is putting, money into assets, right? If and when we talk a little bit more about taxes, you can understand that anything that's in pursuit of income can be, put in a tax-free bucket. Quiet
Mhm.
is kept, right? So one thing I want to ask you about taxes, right? When it comes to entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
And on this platform, we talk to entrepreneurs, right? So I want you to tell me, like, because a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, they do their own taxes, right? A lot of people that I know, period, they do their own taxes, right? Some people may have tax experts or they might go to TurboTax and that type of thing. What do you think is like, how do entrepreneurs, how do they go about filing their taxes when it comes to personal and when it comes to business? Because like I know I might do my personal taxes by myself, but when it comes to business, I might hire somebody. So how do you figure out where you should go? Do you go get a professional? If you do get a professional, where do we find these people? Because I don't, me personally, I don't want to go to TurboTax every year. I want to find someone who can, literally look at my books and, do it tailored to me, right? So where did you find those?
That's a very important step that we all have to do, because obviously as good citizens we pay our taxes in time. And personally I have always been, because I don't know much about tax filing, that is also one of the areas where I would like to have, learn and improve my knowledge in that space. But then for now I am not a pro in terms of filing taxes, so that's the reason I reached out to a person, a CPA, and I generally find those people through referrals, because there are a lot of people in the public domain, but we cannot have trust unless they are through a referral, right? So I believe that, one of our friends, they were filing taxes through the CPA themselves, and they have very good experience. And they said, hey, you know what? So and so person, she does awesome tax filing. You could use her services. That's how we approached her. And it's been like a couple of years since she has been filing her taxes every year. And I have gotten my LLC registered through her as well. And obviously, because she's experienced and has a lot of many years of experience and all those certifications, I personally feel safe and secure. Why? Because if as long as my taxes are filed in the right way, I have nothing to worry about, right? And I don't have to worry that IRS is going to send me some letter or notification that, hey, this has been missing or this is missing. And earlier, before working with her, I used to use H&R block services. I found a friend, I made a friend over there, and every year I used to file my taxes as a single person before marriage through H&R block. But if we are comfortable and if we know everything about taxes, right? Because some people have that specific background, then they can, file taxes on their own. But we have to make sure that it's done right. Again,
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong method. It's just that we have to do it correctly. That's the whole point of thing. And when we are also filing taxes, we just need to be mindful about all the expenses, right? And legally, there are a lot of provisions in the tax code that we could use as business owners. So, a CPA would actually educate us on all those things. Hey, these are the different tax codes. You could leverage this tax code, and you could write off some expenses like this. So she or he would give us all those insights, and based on that we could file our taxes. And I'm very glad that this year we did the same thing. And this is like 1 year into business for me, and I've been able to see the breakdown of the various things that went into the tax filing. And overall it has been a great experience. But again, please use your judgment and ensure that your tax filing process is in place.
Yeah.
And never uh, you know um, have any kind of doubt with tax filing, because that would have consequences later if it isn't done correctly.
Right. Yep, that's big because you don't want to get that IRS bill and it's in the big
In the
figures, right? Like you don't want to do that. And another thing is like, okay, so we talked about taxes, right? We talked about how you can use your taxes. We talked about tax-free bucket. We talked about the advantages and how to use that to build wealth. And I want to ask you one more question when it comes to taxes, right? How can the regular entrepreneurs use taxes to diversify their portfolio and take home more money when it comes to, their business, right? How can me as a regular entrepreneur, use my tax professional, or use, the little bit of knowledge that I see on the internet or anything like that, to actually use taxes to help me build wealth.
Yes. So this is all again in the tax code, and I feel that United States is a business friendly country. In terms of ease of doing business, like United States is like in the top, and it's a very good thing to be in this country where every person if they want to do a business, they are free to do so, right? And the tax code is also very favorable for business owners. And that's what I learned, when we were filing taxes recently. So I had a conversation with my CPA that, hey, these are my expenses, right? Like these are things that I invested in my business, and this is what I got, this is the profit, this is the loss. So how do I make sure that I structured these all these things in a right way? So she has helped me understand the entire list of expenses breakdown item by item, and she helped me understand like, hey, you could take a tax deduction for this item and why. So she kind of enlightened me on that
Right.
way. So it is always we were able to put all the legitimate expenses, and we were able to claim something, and we were able to get tax deductions on that. And all of these, we need to have those receipts in place. So because we can't just say things that, hey, I spent this much money on something. We can't say things in air. So we need to have all those receipts and documentation to prove that, hey, this is a business expense and this is what I put in the business and this is a profit and loss. So based on that, your CPA who you're working with, they will help you have that done it accurately for that season, tax season.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's important. So you have to, like, it's all in your financial advisors. Like if you have a good financial advisor, they're going to point you in the right direction, especially if your financial advisor is going to be someone who knows what you want, knows your goals, right? Um, and that kind of brings me to my next question, right? Where do you find good financial advisors? Because like we talked to, you can find someone who can do your taxes, right?
Mhm.
You can find someone, a life insurance agent, who can help you with your life insurance and kind of help you, you know, uh, like merge that into your structured, your financial house, right?
Mhm.
But when it comes to something as important as a financial advisor, someone who's looking at your bigger picture, knowing where you're starting, knowing where you want to go, and knowing all the bumps in between, where do you think is like what is like as a financial advisor, I'll tell you one thing that I look for, um before I even sign a client or before I even think about anything, is like I said, where does that client want to go? What do they want to achieve? But also, how is their mindset, right? So as a
Mhm.
financial advisor, we have to change people's mindsets or help them do certain things. But where do you find a good financial advisor that's going to show you what to do? And
Mhm.
like, how do you know that that's a good financial advisor, right? Because like we don't know. Like as someone who might be on the other side, you might not know what a good financial advisor is. So give us some tips on what a good financial advisor is and how to find.
Absolutely. So, and when I, before answering how should we pick the financial advisor, first thing is, should we even pick a financial advisor? That's one thing, right? Uh, First of all, the knowledge is very important. We cannot just, give the steering wheel of our car to someone and say that, hey, please drive it for me. We also need to know how to drive. So I would use the same analogy for finances also. And if you're a business owner with large income, large revenues, right, that's good thing. When people generally tend to go to these big companies where all these financial advisors are actually working for that company. So when you become their clients, so they will manage your portfolios, but it's not a rule that they would have your best interest. I know they would manage your portfolio to make sure that it grows and it stays well. That is all done. I mean, I'm not against all those people, but you also should know. what's happening with your portfolio. And let's say if you're with a financial advisor or a financial consultant who is independent, there is something called fiduciary responsibility. You should
Mm,
make sure that fiduciary responsibility means the person who has your best interests at heart. That is the most important thing, because they
right.
would do something that works best for you versus what's best for that company that they are representing. So find a person who is your fiduciary. You have to understand that. You have to ask them this question: Hey, are you being do you have the fiduciary responsibility for me or for your company that they are representing, whatever that is?
Right.
And if the answer is that they are representing you, that's the financial advisor you should go with, because they will have the best interest, your best interest, and they will be able to recommend a solution regardless of what are the things that their company is representing,
Yeah.
and the solution will actually address the problem that you have, the financial problem or gap that you're trying to fill in. So that is what I would personally do. And as an independent financial consultant, I always have that fiduciary responsibility. So all the people that I've been helping or I will help in the future, I will make sure that I am addressing their needs and I have their best interests at heart.
I can agree with you on that. As a financial advisor, we do have a fiduciary responsibility, like not only just to say, hey, this is what you should do, but this is what you need to do, right? And I
Mm.
think something that we haven't touched on, that I want to touch on a little bit, is like I think you mentioned this a little bit and kind of touched on it, but how close are you to retirement, right? And that kind of brings us to investments, right? And I want to talk about a little bit about something that a lot of people have been diving into, as far as entrepreneurship. A lot of people use this in their investment stage, right? We talked about that financial house, and you want to get to investing, right? You want to be able to put money into things, and then like when we talk about investments, right? Stocks has been something that has been on a lot of people's mind, right? When I first got into entrepreneurship, I wasn't really thinking about stocks, and it wasn't really like when stocks were like really that big, right? There was like Wall Street, but you didn't have anything like we have now, where we can get on Webull and we can get, we have something called Kalshi, where you can, bet on what the weather is going to be like today, and you can put a stock on. We have meme coins, we have Doge coins, we have all these type of things that I don't know too much about, right? Don't know too much about the stock, the science of it, right? But what I do know is it is making money, right? And people are quitting their jobs because of this, right? So one thing I want to ask you is, when it comes to stocks, and when we talk about financial advisors and understanding what to invest in, right? I want to say one thing, right? When it comes to financial advisors, your financial advisor could be your neighbor. Okay, your financial advisor could be the banker at your bank. Your financial advisor could be your mentor, your coach, right? You don't necessarily have to pay someone every single month to be there, to be your financial advisor, right? Or you can get that knowledge on your own. But when it comes to stocks, right, a financial advisor is going to be very, very important, right? Because when we talk about something called risk appetite, which is basically exactly what it sounds like, right? How much risk can you appetite? How much can you stomach, right? So if I know that I'm going to literally lose my cool, right? If I lose $10,000 in a deal, I might not want to, I might go with a little 5K, right? If I can afford to lose.
And it also depends on the age also, right?
Yeah.
Like the age
Yeah.
factor, like if they're closer to retirement, they would kind of stay they can be conservative in terms of the stock investments, right? But if they
Right.
are young and wild, and they're like, hey, I don't mind losing some money, because stock market is it's unpredictable. I know
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who earn a lot of money, huge sums of money in stock market. It's definitely one of the most hottest kind of investment areas. But then we got to be mindful and also need to understand the risk appetite. And even if you lose money, sometimes it takes years to recover from the loss. So
Yes.
that also has to be taken into account. Otherwise, it's like people will be just losing, and then they are like, hey, we wasted all this, great time where we should have where we should have gotten some good returns and has could have increased our money or grown our portfolio. So
Yeah. Are
we
you
got to be really mindful about that as well.
Are you against trading, or like what do you think? Because when we talk about structure, right, when we talk about
Mhm.
building a portfolio, I think everyone can understand that passive income has to come into play, right? And that's
Yes.
kind of where we talk about real estate and we talk about stocks, right? Those are two things that can bring you in passive income when we talk about things like indexes or when we talk about mutual funds where you can invest and you can get money back in a return, right? Versus you making a risky play and you go invest in something and then you lose the money. You can invest in certain things like Walmart, right? That'll pay you every single month. It
Yes.
might be small money, but again, that comes with your risk appetite and your structure, right? Like, are you going to be someone who uses your credit to, make aggressive investments, right? Or are you going to
That
be someone who's trying to be in cruise control and are just trying to make passive income? So all that has to do with your structure, right? But when it comes to
Mhm.
diversifying a portfolio, do you think you should have stocks? And like, what is your thoughts on stocks and even trading
Yeah.
in your
Personally, I like stocks. Earlier I used to trade, but I haven't traded, done much day trading. I mean, I like the concept of day trading, but
right?
again, I was really kind of worried that, hey, if I take a wrong position on that day trade, I would lose the money. So I was like really very cautious. But there's nothing wrong in stocks, people, and I'm a person who would like to buy stocks for long term. Like I would buy some great stocks which have stability and which grows over time. And some stocks are like keepers, like you got to keep them and you may want to pass them to the next generation as a legacy, right? That happens. So we got to figure out the strategy or the stand that we want to take. Do you prefer long-term trading or do you prefer day trading? Because quick money is never the best money. I know it feels very and fun, adventurous, right? Like it gives us a high that, hey, I made a lot of money in today's trade. That's great. But again, we got to be really careful just so that we don't lose our hard-earned money and make some good investments, like, read about it, find out about information and which stocks are good because some of the stocks they also pay dividends, which is extra money, right? So you could do medium term stock trading, you could do long term trading, you could do short term, and there are other different options like derivatives, futures, options, and commodities. Again, for all these things, we got to be proactive in terms of knowing the game. We have to always learn the rules of that game so that we can kind of prevent huge losses and just be a reasonable player in that space and kind of make money and add to our retirement nest egg. That's what I would do if I were if I were to do stocks.
Yeah. And it's not always about preventing a loss. Sometimes you want to be able to know that you can stomach take that loss, right?
Mm,
So if I
yes.
know like, you're always gonna like it doesn't matter what investment you make, there's always a chance that it could, it might not work out. So you have to
Yes.
be okay with that. So that always comes down to your risk appetite. And the more aggressive you want to be, right, is going to determine how like what type of term of investments are you trying to make. You're trying to do short term, you might be a little bit more aggressive, right? And
Yeah.
I love that you bring up dividends because that's a big thing when it comes to just playing it safe, right? Just trying to be in cruise control and create passive income. So when we talk about building that portfolio, your stocks or anything like that, investing in something that can pay you every month or that you can be a little risky with is going to be it's important, right?
Yes.
We talk about a diversity of the portfolio, right? And I talk about this a lot in credit, right? When you bring your credit report to a banker or you bring it to a lender or even an investor, right? You want to have some diversification. You don't just want to have one credit card and then, that's it, right? You want to have a credit card, you want to have a mortgage payment, you want to have a car payment, you want to have a personal loan. All that diversification is going to help you get to the next level. So that kind of brings me to the final level, right? Real estate. Real
Yeah.
estate. This is something that everybody wants to get into. When we talk about people, that 1% of the people who really are bringing in a lot of the wealth, right? What do you think? How do you think people should approach real estate, and how do you think that they can use that to diversify their portfolio and start really building that legacy and really getting in that true wealth?
And this remind whenever I think about real estate, I think about Robert Kiyosaki. I took one of his real estate investing classes, and his life story also is very inspirational. Why? Because when he wrote this book, Rich Dad and Poor Dad, he broke the truth that your house is not your asset, because
Yeah,
everyone thinks that it's their asset, but it's a liability on the book, on the balance sheet. It is actually a liability because you're paying for the EMIs, and it's not giving you income. You are giving in income, right? And until everyone said that he's a crazy person in the beginning because he said house is not an asset,
yeah,
until 2007, when there was this housing uh, crash that happened. That's when they realized that, hey, houses are not indeed assets. And I feel that instead of buying a house, don't be in a rush to buy your first house. I know it's a sentimental thing for everyone, even for
right,
myself. But also think about the impact on your, overall assets and, liabilities, how your balance sheet would look like. And just do not make this as a emotional or a sentimental decisions. Just think practically. Like if you have some amount of surplus money, you could go buy some rental properties, like a small
right,
property, and you could just start building, right? And even for that to happen, you need to have that that minimum knowledge, where we could just invest in some small courses where you could learn about real estate investing. How does that landscape look like? And the more we have that knowledge, the more empowered we will be. And again, we won't be building a portfolio in one day. It will happen over a period of time. But just if you could start out with some buying some rental property, that's a great start. And even if you are want to buy a house, make sure that you are not taking too much debt on your head. So things like this. So if I were to do the thing, that's my take on real estate. And I want to just do some more research on that area, in that field,
yeah.
and learn more and just be that empowered real estate investor. But that's definitely one of the asset vehicles that you must have in your portfolio for a
Right.
comprehensive financial planning.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanna shift to, right? Is education. Like we can as entrepreneurs, right, we can learn about things, right? But are we gonna use them, right? So I think education is key when it comes to the portfolio in general, because only you know what you want your legacy to be. Only you know what you want your kids to have when you die, right? And like you said, we will outlive our savings. So that portfolio is going to be like, again, we talked about that financial house. It's how are you, is it going to stand on its own 2 feet if you take a step back, right?
Mm.
So when we talk about real estate, I think it's important for every person in general to understand that this is the key. This is the way to true wealth. This is our end game. This is what we want to invest on, right? Everyone wants to have assets versus liabilities. We've been talking about Robert Kiyosaki. We want to have assets. We want to have things bringing money in, and we want to, of course, things are going to take money out. We're human, right? But
Yeah.
when we talk about retirement, when we talk about legacy, when we talk about wealth, when we talk about financial planning, real estate is a big part of that. So as entrepreneurs, I want everyone to start hopping in gear and understanding that as an entrepreneur and as someone who, wants to have a legacy or wants to have wealth or build something, right? You have to have real estate. And the way that you can start acquiring real estate is literally to just go look for it. Right? There's so many different ways that you can acquire real estate. There's different types of real estate, whether you want to do commercial real estate, whether you want to do fix and flips, whether you want to, go get a duplex versus going to go get a farm, right? All that has to do with you structuring your portfolio, right? So I want to give, before I ask you this last question, right? I want both of us to give everyone kind of a ladder, right? So when we start with, this portfolio, right?
Mhm.
I want us to understand that when we start with that portfolio, we want to start investing, right? So it's all about that investment. So you have to know how to protect your bag. If you don't know how to protect your money or you don't know how to protect your assets, like we talked about, it's going to come in, they're going to take it in taxes, or they're going to take it in litigation. They're going to take it if you get sued. That's why we have LLCs. That's why we don't run our business, from our home without, actually creating an entity, right? Because we want to have protection. So when we understand that aspect of it, the first thing we want to do is protect our bag. So go get life insurance, right? Go get
Mhm.
health insurance. Go get business insurance, right? Go talk to your local professional, right? And then the next thing you want to do is to start diversifying that. So start, when we talked about that financial house, when you get out of that debt, when you get out of that debt settlement, right, and you actually get your debt in, in a healthy way to where you can actually afford to invest into some stuff, right? You got your credit
Absolutely.
cards paid down, your mortgage might be closer to you paying it off, you just paid your car off, right? And you're ready to start investing, then go look into getting some stocks, look
Yeah.
into, going to buy some real estate, right? Look into how you're going to diversify that portfolio. Maybe you have a 7-Eleven, maybe you have your business that's bringing things in, maybe you have a trust, right? Maybe you have money flowing through certain things, right? You have so many different things that is all going to be a structure, right? So you have to have a structure, you have to have a
Yes.
system. And then once you get to that point where
Absolutely.
you have money coming in, you have a structure, you have a trust, you're protecting your money and you're making your money, you have to invest your money, right? So when we understand about
True.
investing and we understand that that's the end game, when we want to be able to say, if I want to go to, Dubai tomorrow, I want to be able to
Mhm.
do that, right? So when
Sure.
it comes to building that portfolio and building that structure, you have to understand that there's levels to this. There's levels to the game. You have to understand how to play the game. So, Rad, please tell me what you like. Just give us some pointers, give us that ladder that you would recommend for anyone just looking to start building their legacies, to start wealth building anywhere, in any place, at any time.
Yes, so thank you. This has been a really engaging conversation, and I feel that everything starts with knowledge, right? Like try explore for the options and just be very conscious about what your portfolio looks like right now and what are the different steps with small steps for financial discipline and trying to understand about these various tools like life insurance or whether it's 401ks or real estate or stocks, and kind of remembering the order of the financial house. Start with protection, use estate planning if you're a family, and then how you could pay off the bad debt, pay off the expensive credit cards that have high APRs, and just keep the ones that are have lower rates, and then kind of prioritizing which ones to keep and which ones to eliminate from your portfolio, and then having that emergency fund, and then investments. Even the investment start slow, right? Take baby steps. Even when you come across some knowledge and some help, look for people and attend some free workshops, webinars. Invest in that. Even if those are paid webinars, this will be an investment for life, because you will understand, you will hear it from the professionals. Like you are a professional and business owner in credit repair space, and you know a lot about how to build a strong foundation in terms of building a great credit. Similarly, for financial advice, financial consultant, I help people to understand what their current needs are and identify gaps. So reach out to these professionals. Feel free to reach out to people like us so that we could guide you, and we will only give you what's the best for you, because we as business owners is one thing, but the mission for people like us is that we want to help people so that they have safe and secured lives, present and future. So that's how you build wealth overall, and it builds. And once you start building in the right way, it compounds. Money compounds. Your money will double every 7 years, and if you do it right, it compounds faster than you can even imagine. So start early, start slowly, gradually. Don't rush into things without knowing about it, and reach out to professionals like us so that you get the right knowledge to get started. So
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
I like that. I love everything that you said today. And I want to ask you one more question, right? And I think I want to ask you one more thing, because I think we didn't touch on this, and I want to give this to the audience because I think it's something that I really wanted to know about. When it comes to the market, when it comes to not necessarily the stock market, but when we talk, like you talked about Robert Kiyosaki, when everyone went into that housing crisis and we went into a recession, and it kind of like the same thing that just happened with COVID, right? Everybody was, businesses were closing, everybody had to stay in their house, people weren't making money, people had to quit their jobs, people lost their jobs, right? How do we as entrepreneurs, or how do we as consumers, how do we as Americans, how do we as citizens, how do we shift with this market of, recessions, of losing your job, of, car repairs, of, hospital bills? How do we shift to that market, and how do we know when is it time to sell and when is it time to buy? I think that's real
Yeah.
important. I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, that's, even myself, I kind of, just the first thing is not to be scared, because it's not like sky is falling, because everywhere, you hear chaos and things are happening. There is war happening, all these things, but do not be worried, because, in emotions, when we get into those kind of emotion of fear, we tend to take in wrong decisions. So just stay calm, don't worry, things will be okay. And then, just, be open to what's happening in the market, right? Just wait for the right time, right? Sometimes, whether it's if you want to buy gold or whether you want to buy stocks, just wait for the right time. And if you're always following some great resources, you would know when to buy and when to sell your portfolio things. So just be open-minded and not worry too much. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And it's very important that we understand, everybody, that wealth is built because we build it. So with that being said, I think we had a beautiful conversation today, Miss Rad. I thank you again for coming on the podcast. You gave me a lot of insight. And I think you talked a lot about, when we talk about diversifying your portfolio, protecting the bag. I think you gave a lot of great insight. And again, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Before we get out of here, please tell everyone how they can, connect with you, how they can support what you have going on. And if you do have anything going on as far as, events, anything like that, please tell us what you got coming up and how we can support you.
Absolutely. And it's a great conversation. Thank you for having me today here on your podcast, Athena. It's a real honor to have me here. I mean, I really feel honored. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And the best way to reach out to me is via my email ID. I will share my email ID and my phone number with Athena. So please feel free to reach out to me for a free consultation. I would love to understand, your problems and, help, offer solutions that will address your needs. And, again, it's always, I will be just a phone call away. And Athena and myself, we will always be in touch. We are going to collaborate, and please do expect more webinars coming up. And
Yes.
I would also, from time to time, I would also host webinars, and I will invite Athena to some of my webinars also. It is my pleasure to invite her. So great going, and sky's the limit. Stay happy.
Yes.
And stay bliss. Have your bliss.
Of course. Thank you so much. And again, if y'all like this episode, if you guys got anything of value from this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know if you want to have Miss Rad on back for part 2. She's going to come back on for part 2 anyway, but just let us know if you want her to come on for part 2. And this episode is going to be, this is the first episode of Wealth Wednesday, you guys. So let me know how that went, and let me know what you guys got from this. We talked about protecting the bag. Again, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Rad, and I will see y'all on the next one.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And love you all, guys. And have a great time.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.